welcome back to News Talk. It is spring, so cue the sniffles. If you're an allergy sufferer, well, we don't have to remind you that all the beautiful spring blossoms out there are causing you problems. Runny nose, watery eyes, itchy, scratchy throats, all of those things. Symptoms your body's reacting to too much pollen in the air. And while there are plenty of over-the-counter remedies, not everybody wants to use medicine for relief. So we've brought in Dr. Babarinde Fadirepo with AFC Doctors Express to let us know about some of the natural allergy remedies out there. And we want to tell you we will be taking your calls on this topic. So if you have an allergy question for Dr. Fadirepo, please do give us a call right now, 703-387-1020. Good to see you, Doctor.
Good to
Welcome.
be here. Thank you.
So let's start with this season in particular. We got a lot of warm weather early on. It's been one of the warmest Marches on record.
That's right.
Does that translate into a worse allergy season?
Yes, it does. You know, the more water you have, the moisture you have, that keeps the plants growing and getting the pollen out, the worse the allergy season can be. Also, high winds can also make pollen to be pushed around, and really that causes a lot of problems for people, especially this season.
And we had a lot of high winds just in the last weekend, didn't we?
That's right. That's right.
And also, I guess maybe it would prolong the season a little bit if you're getting an earlier spring?
Well, an earlier spring would probably, especially now we're seeing a lot of people with the allergies in this starting March, February, and then having this kind of warm weather over the past, especially the winter, which wasn't so bad, probably make it a little bit easier for us to have a longer and harder pollen season here.
Well, people do want relief, and they want it now, and they don't always want to be reaching for their medicine cabinets to get some relief. So you've got some ideas of some natural remedies you're going to share with us today.
Sure.
So what's our first one?
Well, I think the one that I want people to take away from this talk is really the one that has the most evidence behind it is really use of the neti pot or nasal saline irrigation. And you can do this if you have pollen allergies or if you have sinus problems. And this is an example of the neti pot. The neti pot, it's been found that if you irrigate your sinuses once or twice a day, especially in the beginning of the allergy season, you can have good relief of your allergies. What it does is it helps to rinse the sinuses, and it helps to remove the pollen from the area so that you have much less mucus and congestion and irritation.
Okay, so you know that may be effective. It's a little messy. Some people, you know, don't like the whole idea of putting all this fluid up in their sinuses. That's, I guess, the negative, right?
It is probably the negative, and it's also important to know if you're going to do it that you need to make sure that you use distilled water. You put a ½ teaspoon of salt to make it a saline solution so it doesn't irritate the nostrils, but that is
does all of
probably
that, not the water, distilled water, but does everything that you need come in that little box?
So usually this actually just has the neti pot itself, but you can buy the solution also in the stores, any of the stores, pharmacy stores around.
Yeah. And you flush your sinuses, what, a couple times a day?
Once a day, twice a day. Really, you could do it as often as you need to, actually. And the more you do it, the worse your allergy symptoms are, the better, the more you might need to use this.
Okay. Now, next to your neti pot, looks like you got some nasal spray.
Yes. So the nasal spray is also important. If you can't do the neti pot, you want to go ahead and get some nasal spray. It's not as effective as the neti pot, but it actually does provide some relief for you.
And what kind of nasal spray should we buy?
So usually you want to... The problem is some people try to get things like Afrin or things that constrict the nasal passages. You want to get the nasal saline spray, which is just basically saline, water, and a little bit of salt. And you use that multiple times a day to kind of help to reduce the pollen count in your nostrils or your sinuses.
And that works well, but you say the neti pot works even better than that?
It does, because the neti pot, if people don't know how to use it, you actually have to let the water drain from one side of the nostril out the other side. And I know it sounds a little bit messy, and it probably is, but you'll feel a lot better after you do it.
Okay, well, we've got a caller coming in right now for you, Dr. Fadirepo. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name's John. First, I'd like to say that you do an excellent job hosting News Talk every time. Great to see you hosting today.
Thank you very much.
And my question is, why are allergies sometimes inconsistent? Like in my case, I sometimes will suffer allergies, you know, the watery eyes, the runny nose and all that. But then there are just some years where I don't have any allergy symptoms during the spring.
Oh, interesting question.
That is an interesting question.
Inconsistent allergy.
I guess sometimes it might depend a little bit on the types of allergens that are predominant during that season. I mean, there are different allergies, different times of the year where you have more significant. You might have ragweed allergies, or you might have pollen allergies, or grass allergies. And there might be some seasons when you don't have a predominance of the type of allergy that you have. Usually it's a good idea to try to figure out what it is exactly that you're allergic to, and then that way you can kind of figure out how to prevent being exposed to it.
And in order to do that, you need to go to your allergist and have that sort of test done where it's a grid on your skin?
They do. Generally, that's probably the best way to do it. They do allergy testing, but it's best to see like a specialist or an allergist who can do that and try to figure out what exactly you're allergic to.
All right, good question. You've got another natural remedy you want to share with us, and you know, you hear about this raw honey from local bees.
Right.
What good does that do?
So the research on it is not exactly definite right now, but the theory is that using local honey from the area that you're having allergies will actually help to desensitize you to the allergies. So here we have, this is actually not exactly what we're talking about. We're actually talking about raw, non-processed honey.
And sometimes it has a different color. It's sort of creamy.
Right, a little bit, definitely not as clear as this one is. And what happens is, the idea is that by taking little amounts of it over time, your body becomes desensitized to the pollen that it inevitably is exposed to. And then over time, you might be able to not react so violently to the allergies to the pollen when you do get exposed. And you've had people tell you that this works? I had a number of people that have told me that they had the most violent allergies, but they've done this honey remedy, and now they have no allergies. And the research is hard to do, and there haven't been a lot of studies that support it, but anecdotal evidence does show that it does work sometimes. And in order for this to work, you have to start, what, a year in advance taking the honey? Or it really depends, but you want to do it over a few months to be able to get some effect. So your body starts to desensitize. Exactly. Itself. Okay. Exactly. Now, last but not least, we're talking about some herbs or supplements. And what did you bring there? So I just wanted to say I wanted to bring this is nettle, and this is something that is a herb, and it's very helpful for people that are having allergy symptoms. The reason is it kind of decreases histamine production in the body. And I wanted to also mention, for a lot of people, there are a lot of different herbs that can sometimes cause this, can actually help with your allergies, but you have to be careful when you take them because they can also have some side effects too. And so you want to make sure that whatever you're using, especially like the stinging nettle and other supplements, don't interact with other medicines you may be taking. So you want to discuss that with your doctor too. Very good point to make. I mean, definitely supplements are something that doctors need to know about in addition to medications. Well, whether you're going to try the neti pot or some of the local honey or maybe a nettle leaf, we hope that you'll get through this allergy season in fine form. I mean, we thank you for being with us today, Dr. Babarinde Fadirepo.